Hello, and welcome to the Frog in Hand YouTube Masterclass series. My name is Lizzie, and alongside me are Drew and Michael. We are members of the Frog in Hand 2020 Summer Company, and we will be taking you through a 5-episode series exploring dance theater, beginning with today, Episode 1, An Introduction into Dance Theater. We are going to talk today about physical theater and dance theater, with insight into the shared and differed practices of each by dancer-choreographer Kim Fisher and fight choreographer and director Kev McCurdy. While there are many things that differ the practices and approaches into the work of dance or physical theater, we thought we would begin today's introduction by exploring how and where you may find they intersect, as you begin to explore and develop your own personal approach into the work.
I don't know if there's any like hard and fast rules or definitions that I think it is kind of fluid. I think people can call dance theater physical theater and physical theater dance theater. But the reason why I made that distinction with Fuerza Bruta was there were definitely moments of dance. The dance movements were based on the murga, which is a carnival dance. It's like a street dance. That comes out of Argentina and Brazil. So people come into the streets and do these movements. So in that way, it is kind of pedestrian. In the show, there was also just there was a guy running on a treadmill, which is, I wouldn't call it dance. I would call it, that's just very physical. It's physical theater though, because the theater element is the storytelling. The theater element is that, you know, there's a man on a treadmill in a white suit and all of these things are happening to him. But there is a story element there, as opposed to it just being something aesthetic, you know, because I do feel like in the dance world, there is room for aesthetic movement where the intention is not necessarily the story or the why of the movement.
7 or 8 boxes, but there was a lot more in there before. Yellow walls and a wooden loft bed with a blanket that covered underneath to make somewhere secret, and different colored plastic shelves, and that red cockroach, souvenir rose, and way too many snow globes.
The importance for both physical theater and dance theater is how the movements inform the plot and how physical action can turn into narrative action. So it isn't always necessarily about the technique and the perfection behind the movement, but rather the intention and the why behind it. The same can be said for physical theater versus a show with physical elements, which is a differentiation that Kev McCurdy talks about here.
Physical theatre show, a lot of people would probably say clues in the clues in the statement, it's physical theatre. So therefore, when it comes to actual spoken word, unless it's a featured thing that's going to help the physical theatre, that's what physical theatre is. Whereas you've got a show that has physical elements in it, then those physical elements have been placed into the show to either highlight the actual story and to highlight the actual world. I mean, I've worked on physical theatre shows, and it's great where you can just have that freedom. You don't have to worry about dialogue or anything. It's just all about rhythm, and it's about what you're feeling and what you can give out, and you can give 110% then to every single movement that goes on. There is an amazing freedom with doing a physical theatre show. As soon as you're doing a show that has physical elements put into it, then it can be a little bit disjointed at times if you haven't made those links to make everything organic. For me, there's the difference. You have the physical theatre that is pure physical theatre. It tells the story every single time. And then you have a theatre that has a physical element in it, that's either going to accentuate what's going on with the story, or it's 50-50, or in very rare cases, it's to boost a show.
For example, even if you are just sitting in a chair on stage, not doing much with your body, because you have that physical training, that will bring a new sensory awareness to your performance and really elevate that stage presence.
I'm not just going to go and execute the movement, like, because then you just like there's nothing behind the eyes. You're just vacant. You're just like a body moving. It's where that like that raw impulse comes from, and that's it. Suddenly, once you are able to activate that, you're watching a human being do something, feel something on stage.
For our first exercise, we are going to build a short score using 7 different words as a prompt for you to interpret and physicalize in your own body and space. These actions can be done in a more dance or abstract version, or a more gestural acting-based movement. Here's an example of Lizzie, Drew, and I doing this exercise. Fog. Triangle. Confused. Notice that all 3 of us have interpreted these movements differently. This is awesome, and we encourage you to find movements that make sense to you. When doing this exercise, we challenge you to think and act quickly on impulse. Use the first movements that pop into your head. As you go through these movements, try to remember them as we might be returning to them. Find some room and let's get moving. Water. Fruit. Circle. Excited. Home. Memory. The idea for this exercise is to see how you physicalize words into action. If you found that you interpreted the movements in a more literal, gestural way, how can you challenge yourself to move more abstractly and fluidly, creating more aesthetic movements? If you dance through each movement, question, how can you break away from aesthetics? How can you allow yourself to be goofy or character-like? Try thinking more about the why behind each movement.
With this new information, let's try these words one more time. Your next step is to continue exploring this phrase, or to play with your own words. You will repeat this phrase 6 different times with a new task each repetition. Feel free to play music while you move through these tasks. 1. Execute the phrase as small and as simple as you can. 2. Execute the phrase as big and as grandiose as possible. 3. Try the phrase with a variety of different tempos and sizes. 4. Change the music and allow this to influence how you move through the phrase. 5. Try the phrase as if you were walking down the street. 6. Try the phrase as abstract and as expressive as possible.
See how your relationship and story can change when you connect your movements with words. The use of words, movement, and storytelling is a part of both dance theater and physical theater. Notice the difference between the more embellished and expressive movement versus the movement that is more direct and gestural. These are some differences between dance theater and physical theater. That being said, all of these actions came from a clear meaning and intention with directive behind them, which makes them intrinsically theatrical. As many things that differentiate dance theater and physical theater, there are as many things that tie them together. It is up to the collective, company, or individual to decide in what world they exist.
If you are in a group setting, pick 2 contrasting tasks you have added to this phrase and present them. Have a discussion about the exercise and its outcomes.